Hello everyone. I'm Six Path Weeb, and welcome to the channel where imagination rewrites destiny. Today, we dive into a thrilling alternate timeline, one that bends canon and challenges expectations. What if Naruko stunned the entire arena with true silent killing during the Chunin Exams? Not reckless. Not loud. Not predictable. But precise. Calculated. Unseen. In a world where shinobi measures strength through spectacle, what happens when victory comes without a sound? When the crowd sees nothing, but the result speaks for itself? This is a reimagining of potential, strategy, and psychological dominance, where silence becomes the deadliest weapon in the arena. Disclaimer. This content is created purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's begin. The village hidden in the leaves shimmered beneath strings of lantern light. Music drifted through the warm night air, and paper decorations fluttered gently in the breeze. It was the night of the annual festival, a time when the villagers gathered to celebrate their strength, unity, and the peace they had worked hard to protect. 8 years earlier, a terrible disaster had threatened the village. Though the youngest children believed the danger had simply disappeared, the older villagers understood that peace often comes from courage, sacrifice, and careful protection. The festival was not only about celebration, it was about remembering resilience. Far from the bright lanterns and cheerful laughter, in a quiet alley halfway across town, a small girl with bright blonde hair sat curled against a wall. Her name was Naruko. Naruko had always felt different from the other children. She didn't fully understand why some people looked at her with worry or kept their distance. She only knew that she wanted to be noticed for something good, something kind and brave. Earlier that evening, a group of older teens had been unkind to her. They had let their fear and misunderstanding guide their actions. Naruko had fallen and hit her head against the wall. Now she sat there, eyes squeezed shut, trying to steady her breathing. Her clothes were simple and intact, and as always, there was absolutely no nudity anywhere in this story. Despite the ache in her body, Naruko refused to cry. She had made herself a promise long ago: she would become someone the village could be proud of. Someone who protected others, even if she didn't always feel protected herself. From the shadows nearby, a silver-haired man stepped forward. He had been watching, not with cruelty, but with concern. He held a small scroll and unrolled it carefully. Symbols shimmered faintly as he channeled chakra into it. A thin blue thread of energy stretched gently toward Naruko, connecting to the seal hidden at her stomach. This was no ordinary seal. Years ago, a powerful 9-tailed fox spirit had been bound away to protect the village. Instead of destroying it, wise leaders had chosen a different path, one of containment and balance. Naruko carried that seal within her. She did not yet understand what it meant, but it was part of her story. As the blue chakra touched the seal, warmth spread through Naruko's body. The dull ache in her head began to fade. Her breathing steadied. The seal loosened ever so slightly, not enough to cause harm, only enough for a gentle current of energy to flow. The fox's chakra flickered like a distant ember. Within the quiet space of her mind, Naruko sensed something. Not a roar. Not anger. Just a presence. "Why do you keep getting up?" A deep, rumbling voice echoed softly inside her thoughts. Naruko blinked, startled but not afraid. "Because I want to be Hokage someday," she replied in her mind, her voice small but determined. "And Hokage don't give up." There was silence for a moment. Then, surprisingly, a low huff that almost sounded like reluctant amusement. "You are unusual," the presence said. Outside, the silver-haired man watched carefully. He could feel the fox's chakra stir, but it did not lash out. Instead, it flowed in a controlled stream, knitting together Naruko's injuries and strengthening her natural resilience. After a few moments, he rolled the scroll closed. The blue thread faded. Naruko slowly pushed herself to her feet. The pain was gone. She touched her head, surprised to find no injury. She didn't understand what had happened, but she felt stronger, steady, like a tree whose roots had grown deeper. She stepped out of the alley and into the glow of lantern light. The music was still playing. Children were laughing. Fireworks sparkled high above the rooftops. Naruko looked up at the sky and smiled. One day, she thought, they'll see me for who I truly am. Not a symbol of fear. Not a reminder of the past. But Naruko, brave, kind, and determined. And somewhere deep within her, the 9-tailed fox watched quietly. For the first time, it felt something unfamiliar yet gentle. Hope. Naruko squared her shoulders and walked toward the festival. She would train harder. She would learn patience. She would grow stronger, not to prove others wrong, but to protect what she loved. The night remained lively, filled with warmth and celebration. And though challenges lay ahead, Naruko's journey would always be guided by courage, compassion, and the unwavering belief that even the most misunderstood hearts can shine brightly. 4 years later. 4 years had passed, and Naruko sat quietly on the swing outside the ninja academy. To anyone watching, she looked discouraged. But inside her mind, she was deep in thought. "Hey, Q," Naruko asked gently within her thoughts, "why couldn't I just make the clones properly? Why did you guide me to do it differently?" A warm, rumbling voice answered her. "Because of that other teacher. Mizuki, I believe." "Yes, I noticed the look he gave me," Naruko replied calmly. "But it didn't seem unusual." "I sense that he intends to use you," Q responded. "And sometimes, those who try to use others reveal more than they mean to." Naruko nodded inwardly. She trusted her instincts. Just then, she felt the tug of the outside world calling her attention back. She blinked and saw Mizuki approaching. After a brief conversation, Mizuki offered her a second chance to pass the Chunin exam by learning a special technique from a scroll kept in the Hokage's scroll room. Naruko's curiosity sparked immediately. She loved learning new techniques, so she agreed. As she headed toward the Hokage's residence, she spoke quietly in her mind. "What do you think about this scroll, Q?" "If it is the one I suspect," Q replied thoughtfully, "it contains powerful knowledge. But remember, knowledge itself is neither good nor bad. It depends on how it is used." Naruko slipped into the building carefully. She was surprised by how easy it was. "Is this a test?" she wondered. Staying alert, she made her way through the halls. When a stern voice suddenly asked what she was doing there, Naruko froze. Thinking quickly, she used a playful transformation technique, turning herself into a bright, exaggerated character that caused enough confusion for her to slip away safely. There was no nudity involved, as Naruko strictly believed in respecting herself and others. She quickly returned to her normal form and hurried onward. She found the scroll room and carefully located the large scroll Mizuki had described. Securing it on her back, she exited through a window and made her way to a quiet clearing in the forest. When she opened the scroll, her eyes widened. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," she read softly. "This scroll contains advanced techniques," Q explained. "They are labeled forbidden because they require great responsibility." Naruko nodded seriously. She understood that power without wisdom could lead to mistakes. Determined to grow stronger, she practiced carefully, focusing on control rather than force. Suddenly, she sensed someone approaching. Iruka-sensei landed nearby, concern written across his face. Naruko explained what Mizuki had told her. Before long, Mizuki revealed himself and attempted to twist the situation with unkind words. Naruko felt confused and hurt, but she remembered Q's advice. "Stay steady," Q murmured. "Observe." When Mizuki made a reckless move, Iruka stepped forward to protect Naruko. She was stunned. Why would he protect me? She wondered. She had always felt like an outsider, but hearing Iruka speak kindly about her changed something in her heart. For the first time, she realized that someone truly believed in her. With renewed determination, Naruko formed the hand seal she had practiced. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. This time, several solid clones appeared around her. They didn't overwhelm anyone. Instead, they worked together to gently disarm Mizuki and prevent further trouble. The situation ended without serious harm. Afterward, Iruka smiled proudly. "Naruko, you've passed. You are now officially a Chunin." Her eyes shone brighter than the sun. She laughed with pure joy and immediately asked Iruka to celebrate with a bowl of ramen. Later, as they ate, Iruka spoke about teamwork, protecting one's home, and believing in one another. Naruko listened quietly. For the first time, those words did not feel empty. When she returned home, she took a warm shower and lay down on her bed, staring at the small seal mark on her arm, a reminder of the power she carried and the responsibility that came with it. "Q," she whispered in her thoughts, "maybe strength isn't just about being alone." Q's voice softened. "Perhaps true strength comes from learning who stands beside you." Naruko closed her eyes with a small smile. She still had much to learn, but she was no longer walking her path alone. Flashback, the girl and the fox within. Naruko watched through blurred vision as the 4 teenagers walked away. Her thoughts echoed softly in her heart, "Why me? Why is it always me and only me?" As the world around her faded into darkness, another question drifted through her mind: what have I done to deserve this? Why do I not remember doing anything wrong? When she opened her eyes again, she found herself standing in a dim hallway. A shallow puddle of water shimmered beneath her feet, yet her clothes were completely dry. She slowly rose to her feet. The aches she remembered were gone. Not even a scratch remained. What is going on? She whispered. A faint laugh echoed ahead of her, deep and rumbling. Though nervous, Naruko's curiosity carried her forward. The hallway opened into a vast chamber. At the far end stood enormous barred gates stretching from floor to ceiling. Am I in some kind of prison? She wondered aloud. No, a powerful voice replied from behind the bars. You are on the safer side. Two great red eyes opened in the darkness. Naruko froze. Behind the gate sat a giant fox with flowing fur like living flame. Who are you? She asked, her voice trembling. The creature smiled, showing sharp teeth, not in threat, but in mystery. I am Kyubi no Kitsune. Naruko's eyes widened. The nine-tailed fox? The fox gave a low chuckle. You learn quickly. Naruko crossed her arms, trying to steady herself. All right. If I'm not in a prison, then where am I? We are inside your mind, Kyubi answered. My mind? Naruko blinked. Then that means you're inside me. The fox's eyes gleamed. Very observant. Naruko took a deep breath. Is that why people treat me differently? Kyubi's voice softened slightly. Long ago, I was sealed within you. Many fear what they do not understand. But you are not me, and I am not you. We simply share a space. Naruko looked down at her hands. I never asked for that. No, Kyubi agreed. You did not. Yet here we are. A quiet moment passed between them. Your body outside this place is weak right now, Kyubi continued gently. You fainted from exhaustion and hurt. If nothing changes, you may remain that way for a long time. Naruko's eyes widened. I don't want that. I want to grow stronger. I want to protect myself. And maybe even help others someday. Kyubi studied her carefully. I can share some of my strength with you. But not as a command. As a partnership. A partnership? Naruko tilted her head. Yes. I will lend you energy when you truly need it. In return, you must grow with wisdom, kindness, and discipline. Strength without heart leads nowhere good. Do you understand? Naruko straightened. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to prove that I matter. The fox gave a thoughtful nod. Then we have an agreement, not of control, but of trust. Naruko smiled faintly. Deal. A warm crimson light flowed from Kyubi and gently surrounded her. It did not burn. It felt like standing in sunlight after a long winter. The light wrapped around her, filling her with steady warmth and calm determination. When Naruko opened her eyes again, she was back in the quiet alley. A soft red glow shimmered around her before fading. Her strength had returned. She flexed her fingers, amazed. Inside her mind, Kyubi's voice echoed kindly. Remember, you may speak to me in thought. And remember our rule, no harming the innocent, no cruelty, and no secrets that bring fear. We grow stronger through understanding. Naruko nodded. Got it. Back at her small home, she washed up and changed into fresh clothes. As she dried her arm, she noticed a small black marking on the inside of her elbow. It spiraled gently, forming the elegant shape of a fox's tail. Kyubi? She asked silently. It is a symbol, the fox explained. It shows that you have accepted our partnership and survived the sharing of power. There may be more marks in the future, each one earned through patience, courage, and compassion. Naruko traced the mark with her finger. So it's not about being feared. It's about growing. Exactly, Kyubi replied. Naruko glanced at her empty water bucket and realized she had used the last of her daily supply. She sighed, a little embarrassed by her forgetfulness. I guess even future heroes need to remember simple things. Especially future heroes, Kyubi said with gentle amusement. Naruko smiled to herself. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. She did not know if the village would ever fully understand her. But she was no longer alone in her heart. And she made herself one clear promise. She would grow strong, not to frighten others, but to shine so brightly that fear would fade away. Strict rule of this story, there is no nudity anywhere in the content, and the tale remains wholesome and suitable for all audiences. End of flashback. Naruko sat quietly by her bedroom window, watching the evening sky fade into soft shades of purple and gold. A gentle breeze drifted through the curtains as she looked down at her arm with curiosity. There were now 3 tails marked along her arm. They were separate, yet intertwined in a few places, like ribbons dancing together. All three began from a small circle about 1 inch wide near her shoulder, and each extended in its own unique pattern. The original tail was black and steady, forming the base of her chakra control. The second was brown, beginning at her shoulder bone and spiraling downward until it reached the middle of her triceps. The third was gray, circling between the black and brown tails, linking them like a bridge. Inside her mindscape, the great fox spirit known as the Kurama spoke gently. Over time, Naruko had learned to listen carefully instead of reacting with frustration. Their partnership was still new, but it was growing stronger. The brown tail is not complete yet, Kurama explained in a calm, rumbling voice. It will one day become a double tail, extending in another direction. It represents your connection to the earth, your grounding strength and patience. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. She liked that idea. Being connected to the earth meant stability, resilience, and growth. Kurama continued, the gray tail forms a chakra link. It will help you safely guide stronger energy when you practice earth-style techniques. The black tail remains the foundation. It regulates the energy you can use comfortably. Naruko flexed her fingers, feeling the faint warmth of chakra flowing through her arm. She understood now that rushing for more power was not the answer. True strength came from balance and discipline. She thought back to the mysterious scroll she had studied earlier that day, a scroll filled with advanced techniques and complicated seals. There had been so many questions. Is there a way to change the seal? She asked quietly. Kurama's voice softened. The seal is held in place by the Shinigami. Its purpose is protection, for you and for others. It was carefully designed. Naruko considered this. Perhaps the Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, had not acted carelessly after all. Maybe he believed that one day she would grow strong enough to handle the responsibility placed upon her. Instead of feeling frustrated, Naruko felt determined. She rolled onto her side, facing away from the window. The moonlight shimmered softly across her room. Tomorrow, she would train again, not just to become stronger, but to become wiser. As sleep gently carried her away, the three tails glowed faintly on her arm, symbols not of burden, but of growth, partnership, and the promise of a bright future. And in her dreams, Naruko stood firmly on solid ground, learning that true strength blossoms when heart and power move together. The sun shone warmly over the village, and birds sang cheerful songs outside Naruko's window. Naruko rolled over in her bed and buried her face in her pillow. Picture day, she muttered. Why does it have to be today? She knew she should get up. She always trained early, but she also knew that if she trained too hard before school, people might start asking questions. With a dramatic sigh, she sprang out of bed. Fine. I'm up. After washing her face, brushing her teeth, and enjoying a quick bowl of instant ramen, Naruko stood in front of her closet. 2 bright orange outfits hung neatly inside. She crossed her arms. What kind of ninja wears this much orange? She mumbled. I look like a walking sunset. Deep inside her mind, the 9-tailed fox, Kurama, gave a rumbling huff. You do enjoy standing out. Naruko tilted her head. Standing out is different from glowing like a traffic cone. Instead of the fully orange outfit, she picked a black and orange jacket with darker sleeves and matching pants. It felt more balanced. She nodded to herself in approval. That's better. Still bright. Still me. Just less blinding. Later that morning, after picture day was finished, Naruko sat in a chair across from the Hokage, the wise village leader. He studied a file on his desk, then looked up with a gentle smile. I see you've chosen a new outfit, he said. It suits you. Naruko grinned. Graduation present to myself. I'm glad to see you taking your training seriously, the Hokage replied. But we must talk about the technique you learned, the Shadow Clone Jutsu. It is not meant to be shared freely. You must promise not to teach it to anyone else. Naruko blinked. Not even my future teammates? The Hokage raised an eyebrow. Naruko quickly scratched the back of her head. I mean, if I have teammates. He chuckled softly. You will. But my request still stands. Naruko hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Okay. I promise. Good, said the Hokage. Your team assignments will be announced in a week. Naruko waved as she left. See you later, old man. He shook his head fondly as she disappeared down the hallway. Soon, Naruko reached her usual training field on the edge of the forest. She paused and focused, calming her breathing. Slowly, she softened her chakra presence, making sure no one nearby would notice her energy. All clear, she whispered. She sprinted deeper into the woods until she reached her favorite clearing. A small hot spring bubbled quietly to one side, and soft grass covered the ground. A sturdy rock formation stood nearby, her favorite resting spot. Home away from home, she said with a smile. Inside her mind, Kurama's voice echoed. No relaxing yet. 200 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. Balance on the water. Naruko groaned. You always start with the hardest part. If you want to grow stronger, Kurama replied calmly, you must build a strong foundation. Naruko nodded determinedly. She stepped lightly onto the surface of the hot spring, focusing her chakra beneath her feet to keep herself steady. 1 push-up. 2. 3. Hours later, tired but proud, she leaned against the rock. Warm chakra from Kurama gently flowed through her muscles, helping them recover. Good work, Kurama said quietly. Naruko smiled. Thanks. One day I'll be strong enough to protect everyone. Kurama was silent for a moment before answering. Strength is not just power. It is also control. And heart. Naruko looked up at the sky through the treetops. Then I'll train both. Her thoughts drifted to something Kurama once explained to her. Years ago, when she was younger, she had asked why Kurama controlled earth and water instead of fire. People assume things based on appearances, Kurama had told her. But true understanding comes from looking deeper. Naruko had nodded thoughtfully. She liked that lesson. Now, sitting in the clearing, she pressed her palm gently against the ground. The earth responded, shifting slightly beneath her touch. Then she focused on the nearby water, causing small ripples to dance across its surface. She giggled. Still working on the fine details. Patience, Kurama advised. Mastery comes step by step. Naruko stood up, brushing grass from her clothes. Then step by step it is. As the sun began to set, she made her way back toward the village, heart full of determination. A new team awaited her. New challenges. New friendships. And Naruko was ready, not just to become a strong shinobi, but to grow into someone who could shine in her own way. I've learned my fair share of Doden over the last 3 years, said Naruko, brushing a bit of soil from her sleeve as she stood in her quiet forest training ground. You have yet to unlock the Suiten chakra seal, the 9-tailed fox spirit reminded her from within her mind. Its voice carried a teasing rumble, but there was curiosity in it too. Hey, it's not my fault the seal mark hasn't appeared on my left arm yet, Naruko replied, flexing her hand. I've been practicing. Because of this, you cannot begin proper Suiten training, the fox answered. Your chakra network must adjust first. If you rush ahead, you would only need to relearn everything later. Naruko sighed but nodded. She understood patience was part of becoming stronger. Now, the fox continued, review every Doden technique you know. Precision matters. Naruko formed hand signs carefully. Small walls of earth rose smoothly from the ground. Pebbles shifted exactly where she intended. She repeated each technique, correcting her posture and refining her chakra control. When one didn't feel quite right, she practiced it again, calmly, steadily. By sunset, she felt satisfied. Dinner was simple, grilled vegetables and rice she had packed earlier. She preferred staying in her forest training area during intense practice weeks. The fresh air helped her think clearly, and the quiet allowed her to focus. There are comforts I miss, she admitted softly, lying back in her hammock beneath the stars. But being here helps me grow. You value improvement, the fox observed. Naruko smiled. I value becoming someone dependable. The next morning at the Ninja Academy in Konoha, Naruko walked through the doors with her usual determined stride. She noticed 2 classmates, Sakura and Ino, arguing over seating. Naruko chose an empty chair near the window instead. She rested her chin on her palm while Iruka-sensei began explaining team placements. Team 7, announced Iruka. Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, and Uzumaki Naruko. Naruko blinked. Well, she thought, this will be interesting. At lunch, she sat on the rooftop eating a homemade sandwich. The fox stirred within her thoughts. Konoha teaches peace first, it said quietly. That's important, Naruko replied. Strength means nothing without understanding. Below, she noticed Sasuke standing alone. An idea sparked, not to cause harm, but to lighten the mood. She approached him casually. Hey, she said, offering a small smile. We're teammates now. Guess we should at least know each other. Sasuke gave a short nod. I suppose. Their conversation was brief, but civil. Later, when Sakura seemed discouraged, Naruko surprised herself by sitting beside her. "You're strong in your own way," Naruko said gently. "Teamwork works better when we encourage each other." Sakura looked startled, but thoughtful. After classes, the three waited for their assigned jounin instructor. Hours passed. "Where is this sensei?" Naruko muttered. Finally, the door slid open and a silver-haired ninja stepped in lazily. It was Kakashi Hatake. A chalkboard eraser Naruko had balanced above the door fell lightly onto his head, puffing harmless dust into the air. He blinked once. "My first impression," he said evenly, "is that you're energetic." On the rooftop, introductions began. Naruko stood confidently. "My name is Uzumaki Naruko. I enjoy training and improving myself. I dislike giving up. My dream is to become Hokage, so everyone in the village feels protected and proud." Kakashi studied her thoughtfully. Sasuke spoke next, sharing his ambition to restore honor to his clan, not through anger, but by rebuilding its legacy with dignity. Sakura expressed her desire to grow stronger and support her teammates properly. Kakashi closed his visible eye in what might have been approval. "Tomorrow, survival training. Bring your tools. Skip breakfast." "Survival training?" Sakura asked nervously. "It's a teamwork exercise," Kakashi clarified. "Many fail because they think only of themselves." Naruko's thoughts turned inward that night as she sat in her mindscape before the sealed gate. "Hey," she said softly to the fox. "How do you think I'll do?" "You have skill," the fox answered. "But more importantly, you are learning balance." Naruko smiled faintly. "I don't just want to pass," she said. "I want to prove I can work with others. Strength isn't about standing alone." The fox was quiet for a moment. "You are changing," it observed. "Maybe," Naruko replied. "Or maybe I'm just becoming who I was meant to be." Above her, the stars shimmered, silent witnesses to a girl determined to grow not just stronger, but kinder, wiser, and ready for whatever tomorrow's test would bring. And so, Team 7's journey began, not with rivalry or resentment, but with the first steps toward trust. "Yeah, but I'm letting that go now," Naruko said with a light chuckle. "Graduating from the academy and becoming a Chunin feels like the perfect time to turn my life around." Inside her mind, the great fox spirit Kyubi listened carefully. Though powerful and proud, Kyubi often sounded more like a grumpy mentor than anything else. "You will need to read between the lines with your jounin instructor," Kyubi advised. "I noticed that," Naruko replied thoughtfully. "He seems like the type who enjoys being mysterious. Do you think he can teach me something important?" Kyubi's voice rumbled with quiet amusement. "Opportunities appear when you least expect them. He may not look helpful, but even a quiet teacher can guide you. Besides, you already know your basics." Naruko smiled. She appreciated the encouragement, even if it came wrapped in teasing words. The next morning, Naruko woke early, determined not to miss the team meeting. Her instructor, Kakashi, had told them not to eat breakfast. Naruko considered that rule carefully. "I don't think I'll feel sick," she murmured, preparing her usual bowl of ramen. A ninja needs energy. By the time she arrived at the training field, Sakura was already there, and not happy. "You're late," Sakura called out. Naruko blinked. "But Kakashi-sensei isn't even here yet." Sure enough, their instructor arrived much later, greeting them cheerfully as if nothing were unusual. "Good morning," said Kakashi. He placed an alarm clock on a wooden stump. "You have until noon to take these 2 bells from me. Whoever does not get a bell will miss lunch." Naruko glanced at the bells. 2 bells. 3 students. Interesting. "You may use your skills," Kakashi continued calmly. "You'll need to approach seriously if you want to succeed." Sakura looked concerned. Sasuke stood quietly, focused. Naruko stepped forward with determination. "Come on, Kakashi-sensei," she called. Kakashi casually pulled out a small orange book titled Come Come Paradise and began reading. "You're reading during the test?" Naruko asked in disbelief. "It won't make a difference," he replied lazily. Naruko charged forward with basic strikes. Kakashi dodged easily. She quickly used a substitution technique, reappearing behind him with a clever grin, but Kakashi countered just as smoothly. "Good thinking," he commented. Naruko created shadow clones, coordinating an attack from multiple angles. For a brief moment, she almost reached one of the bells, but Kakashi outmaneuvered her again. Naruko retreated into the trees, thinking carefully. "He's not fighting seriously," she realized. He's observing us. Sasuke tried his own strategy. Sakura attempted hers. Each effort was met with calm responses from Kakashi. Naruko's eyes drifted toward the lunches placed behind the field. Suddenly, an idea sparked in her mind. 2 bells. 3 teammates. She paused. 3-person teams exist for a reason. If one fails, the team breaks apart. And Kakashi-sensei would never sabotage the structure of a team so easily. Her eyes widened. It's teamwork, she whispered to herself. Later, when Kakashi tied the 3 of them to wooden posts for failing to retrieve the bells individually, Naruko felt a strange calm settle over her. You all misunderstand the purpose of this test, Kakashi said. Sakura looked confused. There's an answer? Yes, Kakashi replied. Naruko sighed dramatically. Just tell us already. Kakashi closed his book and looked at them seriously. It's teamwork. The word echoed in Naruko's heart. All her rushing, all her solo plans, none of it would matter if she didn't trust her teammates. Naruko turned to Sakura and Sasuke with a bright, determined smile. We can do this together, she said confidently. Let's prove that we're not just 3 ninjas standing side by side, we're a team. For the first time that day, something shifted between them. Not competition. Not frustration. Understanding. Naruko realized that strength wasn't just about speed or clever techniques. It was about believing in others as much as you believed in yourself. And that was the beginning of her true journey, not just as a ninja, but as a leader who would one day inspire everyone around her. She didn't need to be the loudest or the fastest. She just needed to grow. And she would. Wait, but there are only 2 bells. What is the point of teamwork if one person is still left out? Sakura asked thoughtfully. Naruko blinked. She had been so focused on trying to win a bell that she had not stopped to think about that. Kakashi smiled gently beneath his mask and began speaking about teamwork. He explained that shinobi who only think about themselves may succeed alone for a moment, but true strength comes from caring about one another. He even mentioned that someone very important to him had once shown him what it truly meant to protect friends and work together. His voice grew quiet for a moment as he reflected, then he straightened. I will give you one more chance after lunch, Kakashi said. But it will be much harder. And remember, Naruko does not get lunch unless you choose to share. If you break the rules, you all fail. I don't need any food, Naruko declared boldly. At that exact moment, her stomach made a loud rumbling sound. She laughed nervously. Inside, she thought, okay. Maybe I need a little food. But more than that, I need my team. As the 3 of them sat together, Naruko tried to think of a new strategy. She imagined clever distractions and quick movements, but something about Kakashi's words stayed in her mind. Teamwork. That's what he wants to see. To her surprise, Sasuke quietly placed his lunch in front of her. You'll need energy, he said simply. Naruko stared at him in shock. Sakura hesitated only a second before offering some of her food as well. Naruko felt warmth rise in her chest. Thanks, you too, she said sincerely. I won't forget this. Just as she took a bite, Kakashi appeared in a swirl of leaves. The 3 students froze. Instead of scolding them, Kakashi's eyes curved in a smile. You pass. They blinked in confusion. You chose each other over the rules, he explained. You understood that a shinobi must protect their comrades. That is far more important than any bell. Naruko's heart soared. She grinned brightly. She had not won a bell, but she had gained something better. Meet me at the bridge tomorrow at 9, Kakashi instructed. We begin real missions. After Kakashi left, Sasuke and Sakura untied Naruko from the post. They walked off together, chatting quietly about what their first mission might be like. Naruko lagged behind for just a moment, looking at the training field. She placed her hand on the ground and focused on her earth-style technique. Slowly and carefully, she lowered herself into the soil and resurfaced near the edge of the forest, practicing control with a proud smile. Well, she said to herself happily, brushing off her sleeves, I'm officially a Chunin now. She gazed at the village in the distance, sunlight shining across the rooftops. I'll grow stronger, she promised softly. Not just for me, but for my team. And with that hopeful thought, Naruko ran to catch up with Sakura and Sasuke, ready for whatever adventures awaited them next. Naruko floated peacefully on her back in the quiet pond behind her training field, her bright orange swimsuit shimmering under the afternoon sun. The water gently rippled around her, reflecting the blue sky like a moving painting. She rested her hands behind her head and let the warmth soak into her skin. There is a strict rule in this story: there is no nudity anywhere in the content. Naruko sighed contentedly. For a moment, she imagined her day like a movie scene through her own eyes. She pictured her teammates standing at the old wooden bridge, waiting for instructions. She couldn't help but giggle softly. We're three different people who just happened to wear the same headband, she thought, though her smile faded slightly. At least I've been using my time wisely. After completing a couple of simple beginner missions, Naruko had decided she needed to grow stronger in her own way. Instead of spending hours on routine chores, she would create a chakra clone to attend the missions while she trained intensely nearby. Her goal wasn't to avoid responsibility. She simply wanted to become someone her team could truly rely on. I have so many better ways to use 9 hours, she murmured thoughtfully. She often wondered how her teammates, Sasuke and Sakura, would handle real challenges that tested their courage and teamwork. Their earlier exercise with Kakashi-sensei had been more about strategy than struggle. Naruko hoped they would continue improving. Deep down, she didn't want to outshine them. She wanted them all to rise together. Kakashi-sensei hasn't even taught us the tree-climbing chakra control exercise yet, she mused. Other teams have already started. Rolling onto her stomach, Naruko gazed at the trees in front of her. Many were scratched and marked from her intense training sessions. She had been practicing precision and control, channeling chakra carefully rather than wildly. Hey, Q, she called gently into her mind. A deep, rumbling voice responded from within her sealed inner world. What is it, Kit? I was resting. Naruko smiled faintly. Just thinking. She didn't always agree with the 9-tailed fox sealed inside her, but she had learned that arguing endlessly led nowhere. Instead, she focused on improving herself, her skills, her patience, and most importantly, her heart. Just then, a sharp memory flashed through her mind, an echo from the chakra clone she had sent earlier. A sudden impact. Sakura's startled expression. Sasuke's widened eyes. And Kakashi-sensei vanishing in a puff of smoke. Naruko sat up immediately, water dripping from her hair. So he figured it out, she said quietly. He noticed the switch. Her clone must have been dispelled when Kakashi-sensei discovered the trick. That meant questions tomorrow. Lots of them. She imagined Kakashi-sensei's calm voice asking, "Where were you really, Naruko?" And Sakura's puzzled look. Naruko stood up, determination replacing worry. It never hurts to ask for better training, she said firmly. And it's time I was honest. She walked to the shore, dried off, and changed into her regular training clothes. As evening fell, she continued practicing chakra control, balancing on thin branches and focusing her energy carefully beneath her feet. Each step required concentration, calm breathing, and patience. When she finally returned to the village, she noticed the usual whispers and curious glances. Instead of letting them bother her, she lifted her chin. She would earn respect through perseverance and kindness, not resentment. That night, she entered her inner world during sleep. The vast chamber echoed softly as she approached the great fox behind the seal. I told you the clone idea wouldn't last forever, the fox rumbled. Clever once. Predictable twice. Naruko crossed her arms but nodded. I know. I just didn't want to waste time. Training is important, the fox replied, its voice less harsh than before. But strength without wisdom is incomplete. Naruko blinked in surprise. Are you giving me advice? A low huff echoed through the chamber. Control your emotions. Guide them. Do not let frustration guide you. True power grows from discipline. Naruko smiled thoughtfully. Then I'll train smarter. And I'll work with my team, too. She realized something important: becoming strong didn't mean standing apart. It meant learning how to stand beside others. The next morning, Naruko would face her team honestly. She would explain why she had been training so hard. She would ask for tougher lessons. And she would climb that tree using chakra control, not just to prove herself, but to grow. As she drifted into peaceful sleep, Naruko felt a new sense of balance forming within her. She wasn't just training to become powerful. She was training to become dependable, patient, and kind. And that, she knew, was the true path of a great ninja. Naruko woke up to the gentle buzz of her alarm clock at 7 in the morning. She stretched, rubbed her eyes, and smiled at the ceiling of her small apartment. Technically, Kakashi-sensei doesn't arrive until much later, she murmured to herself, but I might as well start the day right. She hopped out of bed and quickly changed into her bright orange training outfit. For breakfast, she enjoyed a simple meal she had prepared the night before and then headed toward Team 7's usual meeting spot. When Naruko arrived, she saw Sasuke and Sakura already there. Sasuke gave her a brief glance before looking away again. Sakura was animatedly chatting with him, not noticing Naruko at first. Instead of announcing herself loudly like she used to, Naruko quietly sat cross-legged near the railing. She closed her eyes and focused on her breathing. My old self would have tried to start an argument or compete for attention, she thought. But that never really helped anyone. Sasuke frowned slightly. Why is she so quiet today? He wondered. Sakura finally turned and blinked. Is Naruko meditating? Curious, Sakura stepped closer and waved a hand in front of Naruko's face. In a swift but gentle motion, Naruko opened her eyes and lightly caught Sakura's wrist before it could tap her forehead. I'm not asleep, Naruko said with a warm smile. I was just focusing. If you want to talk, I'm happy to listen. Sakura hesitated, surprised by the calmness in Naruko's voice.
I was just checking, she replied before walking back to Sasuke.
Naruko returned to her meditation. She spread her awareness carefully, sensing the world around her in a soft, quiet way. Birds fluttered in nearby trees. Leaves rustled in the breeze. She extended her awareness a little farther. Still no sign of Kakashi-sensei, she thought. He must be running late again. She let out a small sigh but didn't complain. Instead, her mind drifted to her childhood, playing in the sandbox, walking by the lake, and pulling harmless pranks that sometimes got her into trouble. She remembered the loneliness of her apartment and how quiet it felt at night. One day, she whispered to herself, I'll have a home filled with laughter. Suddenly, she sensed a familiar presence approaching quickly. A moment later, Kakashi appeared in a swirl of leaves. Good morning, he greeted lazily. You're late, Sakura exclaimed. Kakashi chuckled. Ah, well, a black cat crossed my path, and I had to help it find its way home. Naruko raised an eyebrow but decided not to argue. Kakashi-sensei, Sakura asked eagerly, what are we doing today? I've arranged something a bit more interesting, he replied, glancing at Naruko. Since some of you find basic tasks too simple. Naruko stood and dusted off her sleeves. Weeding gardens and painting fences can be helpful, she said thoughtfully, but I'd love to test what I've been practicing. Oh? Kakashi tilted his head. And what have you been practicing? Training, Naruko answered confidently. Every day. Sasuke crossed his arms. Training doesn't mean much without results. Naruko met his gaze calmly. Then I'll show you results through teamwork. Kakashi's visible eye curved into a smile. That's what I like to hear. Soon, they were assigned to search for a missing cat in the forest. Although Naruko had hoped for something grander, she approached the task with focus and positivity. A mission is a mission, she reminded herself. Even small ones matter. After successfully finding the cat and returning it safely, Team 7 stood in the administrative building to receive their next assignment. Naruko stepped forward. Hokage-sama, she said respectfully, we're ready for a greater challenge. We want to grow. The Hokage studied her for a long moment. You've been working hard lately, Naruko. Very well. I will assign you a C-rank mission. Sakura gasped softly. Sasuke's eyes sharpened with interest. The door opened, and an elderly man entered, leaning slightly on a wooden cane. He introduced himself as Tazuna, a master bridge builder. Though he seemed gruff and unimpressed at first, Naruko simply gave him a polite bow. We will protect you and ensure your safe journey, she said firmly. You can count on us. Tazuna blinked at her steady tone. Humph. We'll see. As they prepared to leave the village, Naruko walked beside her team, feeling a quiet determination grow within her. This is my chance, she thought. Not to prove I'm the loudest. Not to prove I'm the strongest. But to prove I can be someone others rely on. She glanced at her teammates. We'll succeed together, she said. For the first time that morning, Sakura smiled at her. Even Sasuke gave a small nod. Naruko grinned brightly. The road ahead might be long, but she was ready to face it, with courage, kindness, and unwavering hope. In his slightly tipsy state, Tazuna did not fully think through his words. I doubt a kid like you could ever do something like that, he muttered with a dismissive wave of his hand. And even if you could, I would still treat you the same. Naruko's face tightened, her bright blue eyes flashing with hurt more than anger. She had heard words like that before. They reminded her of lonely days at the academy, when whispers followed her through the halls. For a moment, her emotions surged like a storm. I'll prove you wrong, she shouted. Before she could say anything else, Kakashi gently caught the back of her vest and steadied her. "Easy," he said calmly. "Strong feelings are powerful, but a shinobi must guide them, not be guided by them." Naruko took a slow breath. She did not want to lose control. She wanted to grow stronger, not just in skill, but in heart. As they continued down the road, Sakura asked Kakashi if the Land of Waves had its own shinobi. Kakashi explained that while the Land of Waves did not have a hidden village, many other nations did. He spoke about the 5 great shinobi countries and the important role of the Kage, the leaders who guided their villages with wisdom and responsibility. Naruko tried to listen, but her attention drifted. She had felt unusual chakra signatures when they left the village. Someone was ahead of them, hiding along the road. Are they really planning to confront us so openly? She wondered. A deep voice rumbled softly in her mind, the 9-tailed fox, sealed within her. "Stay alert," it advised. "Not everyone you meet will show their intentions plainly." Naruko did not respond aloud. She focused instead on staying aware. She noticed a small puddle by the roadside. It hadn't rained in weeks. Kakashi's eyes seemed to linger on it too, though he said nothing. Moments later, the sharp clink of chains cut through the air. Naruko spun around instantly. 2 masked shinobi burst from hiding, their chains whirling. They wrapped around Kakashi, who appeared startled. But Naruko's instincts told her otherwise. Kawarimi, she thought. A substitution technique. Sasuke reacted quickly, throwing shuriken to interrupt the attacker's movements. Naruko stepped aside as one lunged toward her, drawing her kunai with steady hands. She moved carefully, redirecting the attacker's momentum without causing serious harm. The other shinobi rushed toward Tazuna and Sakura, but in a flash, Kakashi reappeared, skillfully restraining both attackers at once. "Show off," Naruko muttered under her breath, though she felt relieved. Sakura beamed with relief that their teacher was safe. Kakashi's tone turned serious. "Tazuna-san, we need to talk. These shinobi appear to be from the hidden mist." Tazuna looked uneasy. Kakashi explained that their mission had been classified as protection from common bandits. Facing trained shinobi changed the situation entirely. "We aren't ready for something like this," Sakura said nervously. "Maybe we should turn back." Naruko frowned. "We made a promise," she said firmly. "If this bridge can help people, then we shouldn't give up so easily." Tazuna then explained about Gato, a powerful businessman who controlled trade in the Land of Waves. The bridge would help restore the country's economy and bring hope to its people. Because the nation was poor, they could not afford to hire stronger protection. Naruko listened carefully. She understood what it felt like to struggle. Helping others rise above hardship felt important to her. After some thought, Kakashi agreed to continue the mission, with caution. They crossed into the Land of Waves safely. The mist hung thick in the air, and the quiet felt heavy. A while later, Naruko suddenly threw a kunai into the bushes. "What are you doing?" Sakura exclaimed. "There was something there," Naruko replied calmly. Behind the bushes lay a white snow rabbit. Sakura looked worried. "Naruko." Naruko knelt beside it. "It's spring. Rabbits here should be brown this time of year," she said thoughtfully. "This one was placed here on purpose." "Everyone down," Kakashi shouted. Naruko reacted instantly, pulling Sakura down with her. A massive blade spun through the air above them and embedded itself into a tree trunk. A tall figure appeared standing atop the sword's handle, mist swirling around him. Kakashi's posture shifted. "Momochi Zabuza of the hidden mist," he greeted evenly. Zabuza gave a low chuckle. "And you must be the copy ninja, Kakashi." Sasuke's eyes widened when Kakashi lifted his forehead protector to reveal a single Sharingan. Naruko felt a spark of awe. So that's his hidden strength. The 9-tailed fox's voice echoed again in her mind. "Those eyes can see through deception and copy techniques. Watch closely. There is much to learn." Naruko steadied herself. She would not rush in recklessly. Instead, she observed every movement, every breath in the mist. This was not just about strength. It was about awareness, teamwork, and trust. She tightened her grip on her kunai, determination replacing her earlier anger. No matter how difficult the road ahead, Naruko would face it with courage, compassion, and a promise to grow stronger, not just for herself, but for everyone counting on her. The mist drifted gently over the water as the team stood together, guarding Tazuna-san just as Kakashi-sensei had instructed. "Surround and protect Tazuna-san, but do not enter the fight. That is the teamwork here," said Kakashi as he carefully lifted his forehead protector. "Zabuza, first you have to face me. He revealed his left eye, glowing red with 3 black marks arranged in a circle. Naruko blinked in amazement. So that is the Sharingan, she thought. With 2 marks, it can copy movements and sense what comes next. With 3, it can read even more clearly and copy almost anything, except special inherited powers. Strong, but not without limits. Nothing is perfect. I get to see the famous Sharingan, said Zabuza with a calm smile. What an honor. Sharingan? Sakura asked, puzzled. It is a special eye technique, Sasuke explained. It allows the user to read and counter illusions, techniques, and physical moves. And it can copy what it sees. Zabuza nodded. When I was part of the Hidden Mist forces, I studied many skilled ninja. There was one known as the Copy Ninja Kakashi, the man who mastered over 1,000 techniques. Sakura's eyes widened. Sasuke looked thoughtful. Naruko tilted her head, curious about how many skills her teacher truly knew. Enough talking, Zabuza said. If I want to reach the bridge builder, I must get through you. The 3 young ninja quickly formed a protective triangle around Tazuna-san. Naruko's expression sharpened. He talks boldly, but we will not let him pass. Suddenly, thick mist began to swirl. Ninja art, hidden mist technique, Zabuza's voice echoed as he vanished into the fog. He will likely come for me first, Kakashi said calmly. Stay alert. In the hidden mist, Zabuza was known for silent strikes. You might not notice him until it is too late. Naruko steadied her breathing. Silent strikes? Then I will rely on more than my eyes. I will listen. I will feel the air. The mist is getting thicker, Sakura whispered. A voice drifted through the fog. There are many places one could aim. Which should it be? The atmosphere grew heavy. Even Sasuke stiffened. Naruko felt the pressure too, but she pushed chakra gently through her body, keeping her mind steady. Kakashi released a surge of energy that broke the tense stillness around the team. Do not worry, Kakashi reassured them. I will protect you. I never abandon my comrades. Before anyone could respond, Zabuza appeared between them and Tazuna. Naruko reacted instantly. She stepped back to back with the figure and tossed a shuriken behind her as she was pushed aside. The figure dissolved into water. A water clone, she realized. Nearby, Kakashi and the real Zabuza clashed briefly before Zabuza formed a sphere of water around Kakashi. Water prison technique, Zabuza declared. Kakashi was trapped inside a swirling orb of water, unable to move. You tried to escape into the water, Zabuza said evenly. That was a mistake. A water clone formed in front of Naruko, Sasuke, and Sakura. You 3 are inexperienced, the clone said confidently. In a flash, it knocked Sakura down. She slid across the damp ground, stunned. You are only children, the clone added. Kakashi called out from within the prison. Take Tazuna-san and run. As long as he holds this technique, he cannot move far. The clone cannot go too far either. Sakura scrambled to her feet and began to run, fear in her eyes. Naruko caught her arm firmly, but gently. Sakura, look at me, she said, her voice steady. We protect each other. That is what being a ninja means. If you do not want to fight up close, that is fine. Then support us from behind. But do not give up on us, or yourself. Sakura froze, then nodded slowly. Her breathing steadied. Kakashi watched in surprise. Naruko is speaking with such clarity, he thought. Sasuke glanced at her. She has changed. She is thinking ahead. Naruko turned toward Sasuke. I have a plan. He gave a small, confident nod. Let us hear it. Naruko's mind raced. He expects us to attack the clone. He believes we are too inexperienced to target the real source. But if we move carefully and use timing. She crouched slightly, focusing her chakra into her feet. Sasuke, distract the clone. Sakura, watch Tazuna-san and signal us if the real one shifts his position. Sakura nodded firmly this time. Naruko smiled with determination. We can do this together. They moved in sync, Sasuke drawing the clone's attention with swift, controlled movements. Naruko darted across the water's surface, light and balanced, carefully observing the real Zabuza's stance as he maintained the water prison. The mist swirled, but Naruko trusted her instincts. This was not about rushing forward. It was about teamwork, timing, and courage. And Naruko, standing tall beside her teammates, felt something important growing inside her, not just strength, but belief in herself and her friends. No matter how thick the mist became, they would face it together. A lot of arrogance, but you don't actually stand a chance, said Zabuza with a confident smile. Keep underestimating us. The more you do, the stronger we become, Naruko replied calmly. She studied him carefully, her bright eyes focused and determined. Turning slightly, she asked, "Are you ready?" Sasuke nodded. "Ha, you're still playing ninja?" Zabuza said with a scoff. "When I was your age, I had already faced more trials than you can imagine." Kakashi adjusted his headband. Long ago in the Hidden Mist Village, there was a very harsh final test to become a ninja. "So you know about it," Zabuza replied. "It was once a competition between students who had trained together. It was meant to test their resolve, but it was far too severe." Sasuke and Sakura listened with wide eyes. Naruko stayed quiet, thoughtful. She had faced many challenges in her life, and she understood that strength came from perseverance, not fear. Years ago, the exam changed, Zabuza continued. A single boy appeared and overwhelmed the entire class without hesitation. After that, the village realized something had to change. Naruko clenched her fists. She didn't admire that story. To her, true strength meant protecting others, not overpowering them. Suddenly, during the conversation, Zabuza's water clone rushed forward and pinned Sasuke down. "Sasuke!" Naruko called. She formed a cross-shaped hand sign. In a puff of smoke, dozens of shadow clones appeared around them. "Shadow clones," Zabuza observed. "Impressive, but not enough." The clones charged together. Though they were scattered moments later, they had created the distraction Naruko needed. Sasuke understood her plan instantly. He launched a giant shuriken that curved through the air. Zabuza blocked it with ease. "Too predictable," he said. But from its shadow, a second shuriken flew toward him. Zabuza leapt aside, only to see the first shuriken burst into smoke. Naruko appeared from within it, focused and determined. She aimed carefully and managed to graze Zabuza's cheek before landing lightly on her feet. Before anything escalated further, Kakashi stepped in smoothly, deflecting the counterattack and protecting his student. "Well done, Naruko," Kakashi said proudly. "You've grown stronger." Zabuza stepped back, realizing he had been pushed into releasing his technique. Kakashi mirrored his hand signs perfectly. Water style, Water Dragon Jutsu. Twin dragons of water rose into the air and collided in a spectacular splash. The force sent waves across the clearing. Naruko was swept backward and landed against a tree trunk. The impact stung, and she took a deep breath, steadying herself. It hurt, but she refused to complain. She checked herself quickly. No serious injuries, just soreness and a reminder to improve her footing. Soon after, Kakashi used his Sharingan to trap Zabuza in a powerful illusion. The battle came to a halt when a masked hunter nin appeared and carried Zabuza away. Later, at Tazuna's house, Kakashi regained consciousness after resting. "I won't be able to move much for about a week," he admitted. Sakura looked concerned. "Sensei, is something wrong?" Kakashi nodded thoughtfully. Hunter nin usually confirm their work on the spot. But that masked shinobi took Zabuza's entire body. That means Zabuza is likely still alive. The room grew quiet. Naruko, however, felt a spark of determination. If he returned, she would be ready. Not for revenge or rivalry, but to prove how far she could grow. "You will receive training for the upcoming challenge," Kakashi continued. "Training? Will that really help?" Sakura asked nervously. Kakashi smiled gently. "You saved me during that battle. You are improving quickly, especially Naruko. But you'll need more control and teamwork." Naruko folded her arms. She respected Kakashi, but she also knew that relying only on him would not be enough. She wanted to become strong through her own effort. Just then, a small boy named Inari spoke up from the doorway. "You can't win. If you don't want to get hurt, you should leave." Tazuna sighed. "He's been through a lot." Naruko knelt to Inari's level. "Running away doesn't make things better," she said gently. "Sometimes the only way forward is to try, even when it's hard." The next day, Team 7 gathered in the forest for training. "Before we begin," Kakashi said, "we need to review chakra control." Naruko listened closely. She already had strong reserves of chakra, but control was her weakness. "You'll learn to focus your chakra to your feet and climb trees without using your hands," Kakashi explained. Naruko grinned. "That sounds fun." She placed her foot on a tree trunk and tried to channel her chakra carefully. At first, she slipped and landed on the grass. She stood up immediately, brushing herself off with a laugh. Okay, that needs work. Again and again she tried, adjusting her chakra little by little. Each attempt brought her slightly higher. Sasuke advanced steadily, Sakura surprisingly mastered it quickly, and Naruko refused to give up. By sunset, she finally reached a high branch and balanced there, breathing hard but smiling brightly. I did it, she called. Kakashi looked pleased. Excellent progress. Naruko gazed out over the trees. She wasn't aiming to overpower anyone. She wanted to become someone who could protect her friends and inspire hope. She made a quiet promise to herself. She would train harder. She would grow stronger. And she would always choose kindness over cruelty. You guys may be able to do jutsus, but you are not using chakra efficiently. Naruko tuned out the familiar lecture. She had first heard it when she was 9, and although she respected her teacher, she had long since understood the basics. So what are we going to do? Asked Sakura. Tree climbing, answered Kakashi. Tree climbing? What kind of training is that? Sakura asked, puzzled. Please listen until the end. This isn't normal tree climbing. You'll be climbing without using your hands. Kakashi gathered his chakra and calmly walked straight up the side of a tall tree as if it were level ground. Naruko smiled. She had practiced this before, but she was looking forward to refining her control so she could move lightly instead of sticking too firmly to the bark. Gather your chakra to the bottom of your feet and climb, Kakashi explained. Once you master chakra control, this becomes simple. But how does this make us stronger? Sakura asked. When you can control your chakra precisely, you can master any jutsu more effectively, Kakashi said. It also builds stamina, which is essential for steady control. He handed each of them a kunai. Mark how high you reach. You may not make it far at first. The 3 teammates chose their trees. Sasuke made it several feet up before using too much chakra, which cracked the bark and caused him to slide down. Naruko held back too much chakra on purpose and only climbed a short distance before dropping gently to the ground. Sakura, concentrating carefully, made it all the way to a sturdy branch. This is pretty easy, Sakura said with a bright smile. Naruko felt a small pinch of envy but quickly replaced it with determination. She approached Sakura. Do you have any tips? Just stay calm, Sakura replied. Focus on your chakra, not on what anyone else is doing. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. Time passed, and Naruko pretended to struggle more than she truly was. Kakashi stayed with them until evening and asked them to continue the next day. The following morning, Sasuke approached her. What did Sakura tell you? Naruko answered calmly, she said to keep your emotions steady and focus on your chakra instead of the people around you. To demonstrate, Naruko stepped toward her tree. She gathered just the right amount of chakra and walked upward with smooth, even steps. There was no shouting, no rushing, only balance and confidence. Sasuke watched in surprise. Naruko reached the top branch and looked out at the horizon. She felt proud, not because she had climbed higher, but because she had found calm within herself. After training, she slipped away to a quiet stretch of shoreline to continue her personal practice. The ocean breeze brushed against her face as gentle waves rolled in. A warm, thoughtful voice echoed in her mind, the spirit of the 9-tailed fox, Kurama, who guided her growth. Focus, Kurama said. Feel the water around you. Naruko stepped ankle deep into the water. She closed her eyes and breathed slowly. Instead of trying to command the water, she listened to it, the rhythm of the waves, the pull of the tide, the coolness around her feet. She let her chakra flow softly, not forcing, only connecting. Water and earth were always nearby, Kurama had once explained. Learning to sense them meant understanding the world itself. Naruko felt the sand beneath her feet and the moisture in the air. Gradually, she sensed tiny droplets drifting around her shoulders. She did not try to shape them yet. She simply acknowledged their presence. Well done, Kurama said. Now try forming a Mizu Bunshine. Naruko nodded. Since she already understood the shadow clone technique, she adapted that knowledge. She focused on the water before her and gently infused it with chakra. The surface shimmered, and a figure slowly rose, an exact copy of Naruko, formed entirely of clear, flowing water. The clone stood on the surface of the sea, smiling. Naruko beamed with pride. It worked. Good, Kurama replied. Now practice shaping it differently. A water clone can take many forms if you imagine clearly. Naruko considered this. She adjusted her chakra slightly, and the watery figure shifted, its hair tied differently, its posture altered. She could even imagine creating a clone shaped like another teammate for harmless training exercises. The chakra signature would remain hers, but the appearance could vary. She laughed softly, delighted by the possibilities. The sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the ocean in gold and pink. Naruko dismissed the clone and stood quietly, reflecting on her progress. Strength, she realized, was not just about power. It was about patience, balance, and understanding herself. She walked back toward the village with steady steps, determined to grow, not only as a shinobi, but as a kind and thoughtful person. Naruko trained late into the evening, listening to the gentle rhythm of the waves along the shore. She was so focused that she did not even notice how hungry she was until she woke up the next morning on the sandy beach. The sunrise painted the sky in soft pinks and golds, and she stretched with a proud smile. She had done it. Her Mizu Bunshine technique was complete. Naruko could now create a dozen shimmering water clones at once, each shaped slightly differently, each moving with careful precision. They splashed playfully around her, mirroring her joy before dissolving back into the sea. Instead of returning to Tazana's house right away, Naruko practiced using her new skills to catch a fish for breakfast. She guided the water gently, forming a small cradle beneath the surface. With patience and care, she scooped up a fish and thanked the ocean before cooking it over a small, safe campfire. Naruko understood that she could only use water techniques that already existed. She did not yet have complete mastery over water, so she respected its natural flow. Her inner mentor, the wise fox spirit known as Kurama, guided her thoughtfully. "Very good," Kurama said warmly in her mind. "You've learned to move water calmly. Now let us shape it with strength and balance. First, spin the water around you. Then lift it while it spins, start with a column, and then form it into a sphere." "A shield," Naruko whispered to herself, eyes shining with determination. "Exactly," Kurama replied. "The water sphere barrier. It protects from all sides and can help you respond quickly when needed." Naruko inhaled slowly and began. The water swirled at her feet, then rose in a sparkling spiral. It took hours of steady concentration, but by midday, she stood inside a clear, spinning globe of water. Sunlight shimmered through it like a crystal lantern. She practiced shaping the barrier again and again until she could raise it smoothly. Kurama then taught her how to guide gentle waves outward from the barrier, not to harm, but to push back obstacles and create space when necessary. "Remember," Kurama explained, "water is powerful, but it is also patient. Humans must respect its nature. Shaping it into complex forms requires many hand signs because we are borrowing nature's strength. The more you understand water, the more wisely you will use it." Naruko listened carefully. She loved learning not just how to use a technique, but why it worked. By the time evening came, she returned to Tazana's house just as dinner was being served. "Where have you been?" asked Sakura, hands on her hips but eyes full of concern. "Training," Naruko replied, her voice tired but cheerful. "But Sasuke said you finished tree climbing practice," Sakura continued. "I did," Naruko answered proudly. "Now I'm working on something new." Kakashi looked thoughtful. "It's good to grow stronger, Naruko. But remember, you're part of a team. Training together helps everyone improve." Naruko nodded respectfully. She understood his point. Before she could reply, however, the delicious smell of dinner made her stomach rumble loudly. Everyone laughed kindly. She ate quickly, thanking their host politely and asking for a second helping. After finishing, she stood up. "Excuse me. I'd like to practice a little more." "At least take someone with you," Kakashi suggested gently. Naruko smiled. "This part is something I need to understand on my own first. But tomorrow, I'll share what I've learned." She stepped out onto the dock. Sasuke followed her, looking determined. "You're pushing yourself too hard," he said firmly. Naruko grinned. "Maybe. But I believe I can do this." He folded his arms. "Then show us." With a playful sparkle in her eyes, Naruko stepped lightly off the dock, and landed gracefully on the surface of the water. The team gasped softly. She crouched there, balanced perfectly, the ocean calm beneath her feet. Sakura blinked in amazement. "Naruko." The water shimmered around her like a mirror reflecting her growth. Naruko felt proud, not because she was stronger than anyone else, but because she had worked hard, stayed patient, and learned to respect the power she carried. And as the moon rose overhead, Naruko knew this was only the beginning of her journey. She would grow not just in skill, but in kindness, teamwork, and understanding. Naruko looked up and saw a circle of surprised faces staring at her. What are they so shocked about? She wondered. Then she glanced down at her feet and blinked. She was standing perfectly on the surface of the water. Oh. I landed on the water without thinking, she thought, trying to stay calm. Naruko, I didn't know you had already mastered water walking, said Kakashi Hatake, sounding pleasantly surprised. Naruko narrowed her eyes playfully. Maybe you were right, sensei. Maybe you can't keep up with me. Nearby, Sasuke Uchiha crossed his arms. He had only just managed to climb halfway up a tree during training. He did not like being teased. Kakashi studied Naruko carefully. She's improving quickly, he thought. But she didn't connect tree climbing practice to water walking before. Something doesn't quite add up. Naruko grinned brightly. I've mastered water walking, and I've got even more skills I want to learn. That's why I'm going to keep training. She wasn't exaggerating. She truly wanted to grow stronger, not to outshine anyone, but to prove to herself that she could. Suddenly, Inari's voice rang out. Why do you even try so hard? No matter how much you train, you can't win against powerful people. Naruko turned toward him, surprised by the frustration in his voice. You're always smiling, Inari continued. You act like everything is easy. You don't understand how hard life can be. Naruko felt something stir inside her chest. For a moment, her energy flared, and even Kakashi sensed it. But she took a deep breath. Instead of shouting, she spoke firmly. You don't know everything about me either. Just because I smile doesn't mean things have always been simple. Naruko. That's enough, said Sakura Haruno, worried the argument might grow worse. Naruko shook her head and stepped back. I need some air. She walked into the forest alone. Once she was far from the house, she let out a long breath. She closed her eyes and focused on calming her swirling thoughts. I shouldn't let anger guide me, she whispered. If I want to become the best ninja I can be, I have to control my feelings. Instead of lashing out, Naruko began practicing her taijutsu forms carefully and steadily. She moved with purpose, channeling her frustration into discipline. With every strike and step, she reminded herself, strength is about balance. After hours of training, she finally lay down beneath a tree. The sky shifted from deep black to soft blue as morning approached, and she drifted into a light sleep. Not long after, she sensed someone nearby. In an instant, she sprang up and gently caught the stranger's wrist, alert but not aggressive. Before her stood a woman with long black hair and calm eyes. You'll catch a cold sleeping out here, the woman said kindly. Naruko studied her. Who are you? What are you doing out here so early? I'm gathering herbs for a friend, the woman replied smoothly. Naruko tilted her head. The woman's presence felt familiar somehow. You're a ninja, aren't you? The woman asked. Naruko nodded. Yep. Why do you train so hard? Because I want to become stronger, Naruko answered honestly. I want people to recognize my strength, and I want to protect what matters to me. The woman's expression softened. Is that for others, or for yourself? A bit of both, Naruko admitted. The woman looked down thoughtfully. For just a moment, the careful control over her presence lessened. That was enough. Naruko recognized her. She remembered the masked hunter Nin from before. When someone has something precious to protect, the woman said quietly, that is when they truly become strong. Naruko smiled gently. An image formed in her mind, of her teammates, her village, and the bonds she was slowly building. I understand, she said. The woman turned to leave. We will meet again soon. As she walked away, she added calmly, and just so you know, I am actually a boy. Naruko gave a knowing smile. I figured. When the stranger disappeared into the trees, Naruko lay back down, thoughtful but peaceful. Later, in her inner world, Naruko found herself standing before a vast gate. The water that usually covered the floor was gone. Everything was quiet. Q? She called softly. A warm red glow appeared in the darkness. It slowly took shape, not as something frightening, but as a graceful woman with long, flame-colored hair and 9 soft, flowing orange tails. She wore an elegant black gown, modest and refined. The atmosphere was serene. There was no nudity anywhere in this world or any other, only dignity and strength. Her red eyes shone gently. Yes, Naruko, the woman said warmly. Naruko recognized her at once, the spirit of the 9-tailed fox, Kurama. I heard what you said earlier, Kurama continued. About protecting what matters to you. Naruko placed a hand over her heart. You're important to me too. We're connected. And I want us to grow stronger together. Kurama's expression softened. Strength does not come from anger alone. It comes from understanding, discipline, and care. Naruko nodded. She was still learning. But she was trying. As the red glow faded into warmth, Naruko felt a steady calm settle inside her. Tomorrow, she would train again, not to prove anyone wrong, not to argue, but to become the best version of herself. And step by step, she was getting there. Dear YouTube family. That's all for today's video. I truly appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to watch and support the channel. Your views, comments, and encouragement mean more than you know. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an update. More exciting videos are on the way. Thank you for being part of this journey. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.